I work in a busy office. From the outside, my life looks neat and tidy. I am a social media director, a title that sounds important and modern. My days are filled with plans and meetings and giving orders that sound confident. I wear clean, ironed shirts. I keep my desk organized. When people see me, they see someone who has it all together. I smile in the long, bright meeting rooms. I answer emails with speed and efficiency. The version of me that people see at work is calm, capable, and in control. This version of me is a carefully constructed shield, polished every morning before I leave the house. The symptoms of my low mood were not things you could see on the outside. They were invisible weights I carried everywhere. Self-doubt was a constant companion, questioning every decision I made at work and in my personal life. Anxiety was a low-frequency buzz in the background of my days, sometimes spiking into a sharp, jangling panic for no clear reason. I found myself judging others harshly, a habit I knew was a reflection of how harshly I judged myself. It was a defense mechanism, a way to feel a little bit better by finding fault in the world around me. I knew this habit pushed people away, creating a lonely island for me to live on. My performance at work was my greatest disguise. I could channel all my anxious energy into being productive. I could over-prepare for meetings. I could answer emails at all hours. I could create detailed project plans that left no room for error. My colleagues saw this as dedication and talent. They had no idea my productivity was fueled by a deep-seated fear of being found out, of being seen as the fraud I felt I was. The praise felt hollow because it was for the mask, not for the person underneath. This constant performance was utterly draining. I would cancel plans with friends, telling them I was busy with work. The psychiatrist's office was not what I expected. It was just a quiet room, 2 comfortable chairs, soft light. There were no strange machines or cold clinical surfaces. The doctor was a woman with a calm face and kind eyes. She did not rush me. She just sat and listened. For the first time in a very long time, I felt like I did not have to perform. I could let the mask slip, just a little. She asked simple questions about my day, my work, and my sleep. I found myself telling her things I had barely admitted to myself, let alone said out loud. In that first session, I learned a new phrase. After I described the storm of critical thoughts in my head, she said, "You are not your thoughts." The words were so simple, but they landed with incredible force. The idea that my thoughts were just something happening to me, not something that was me, was revolutionary. It was like someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. It did not fix anything right away, but it gave me a little space, a little air to breathe. I held on to that phrase like a thin but protective coat. In the first week of therapy, my main task was simple observation. The doctor did not ask me to change anything. She just asked me to notice. "You are not your thoughts," she had said. My homework was to practice seeing them from a distance. I started to notice the sharp, critical voice, as if it were a character in a movie. "You're going to mess this up," it would say before a big presentation. Instead of automatically believing it, I would add a small note in my mind. There is the thought that I will mess this up. It was a tiny shift in language, a sliver of separation. I was no longer fused with the anxiety. I was observing it. During the second week, she asked me to become a detective of my own moods. I kept a small notebook and wrote down the lowest moments. The notes were short and simple. Monday, 10 a.m. Boss praised Sarah's work in the team meeting. Felt invisible and small. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Sent a long text to a friend. No reply after 2 hours. Felt rejected. Thursday, 6 p.m. Friend canceled dinner plans. Felt like I am not important. At first, writing them felt like dwelling on the negative. But bringing the notebook to the session showed it wasn't just a list of bad feelings. It was a map of my triggers. By week 3, patterns emerged from the map. They were clearer than I could have imagined. We found a major feedback loop involving my phone. When sadness or inadequacy washed over me, I would pick up my phone. I would scroll social media or read old text messages. The phone wasn't comfort, it was fuel for the fire. The more I scrolled, the worse I felt. The worse I felt, the more I reached for my phone. We found other loops too. Secrecy, perfectionism. These loops were the engines of my depression, running silently in the background of my life. After mapping the loops, the next step was not to destroy them with force. The doctor suggested we try to create small breaks in the pattern, tiny interruptions. She did not give me a big, overwhelming plan. Instead, she gave me one small, manageable task each week. The first task was to break the phone loop. She asked me to turn off my phone 1 hour before I went to bed. The first night was surprisingly difficult. My hands felt empty. The silence in my apartment felt louder, but I stuck with it. After a few days, I noticed I was falling asleep a little faster. My mind felt a little quieter in the mornings. The following week, we worked on the loneliness loop. The task was to send one honest message to a friend. Not a big, dramatic confession, but something small and true. I chose a friend I trusted and wrote, "I've been having a bit of a hard time lately and feeling quiet." I typed and deleted the message 5 times before sending it. My heart pounded as I waited for the reply, expecting silence or an awkward response. Instead, my friend wrote back almost immediately, "I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm here if you want to talk. No pressure." That simple, warm reply felt like a lifeline. It was a tiny piece of evidence against the loud voice that told me no one cared. We used my tteokbokki craving as a gentle experiment in mindfulness. What really happens when you want and eat tteokbokki? Before, tired, empty, small. During, heat, spice, chew. After, a small warmth and a sense of calm. This small joy was not a cure, but it was a resource. Week 6 was a setback, a panic attack. In session, she taught me, breathe in 4, hold 4, out 4. It gave my anxious mind a rhythm to anchor to. As the weeks went on, we started to work on the deepest and most ingrained habit, my harsh inner critic. That voice was my constant companion, whispering words like stupid, useless, failure. The doctor asked me to simply listen to this voice, not as a truth, but as a sound, like a noisy neighbor. My homework was to catch it in the act. Whenever I noticed the sharp voice, I was to write down what it said. Then, right next to it, I was to write a kinder, more realistic sentence. For example, after I sent an email with a typo, my instant thought was, "I am so stupid. I can't do anything right." I wrote that down. Then I had to come up with a kinder alternative. "I made a small mistake because I am tired. It is okay. Most people won't even notice." The new sentence did not feel true, but I wrote it anyway. I did this again and again. When overwhelmed, the voice said, "You're useless. You'll never get it all done." My kinder sentence, "This is a lot of work for one person. I will just focus on the next small task." Over time, something strange happened. The new sentences began to feel less like a lie. The old voice started to lose its power. It was still there, but quieter. The world around me did not change. My job was still demanding. My colleagues were still busy and stressed, but my experience of that world began to shift. One afternoon, a colleague asked me how I was doing. Instead of the automatic, "I'm fine, thanks," I paused and said, "A bit of a tough day, actually." He just nodded and said, "I get that." Near the end of the 12 weeks, I looked back at the notebook. It was now filled with small wins, fewer sleepless nights, rare entries about crying alone. I was not cured, but I was equipped. The doctor never promised me a cure or a final destination called happiness. She said that recovery is not a straight line. It is a winding path with hills and valleys. Life, she reminded me, is full of ups and downs for everyone. The goal was not to eliminate all bad feelings, but to learn how to navigate them without getting lost. She said that small, consistent changes are what build the path forward. It was not about a big fix, but about small, daily acts of care. Now my tteokbokki is more than just a craving. It has become a small, deliberate act of self-kindness. Sometimes on my way home, I stop at the stall near my apartment. The woman who runs it recognizes me now and gives me a small nod. I buy a warm cup and sit on a nearby bench. I eat slowly. I watch the people walk by, each lost in their own world. I feel the cool evening air. I breathe. If you feel the way I did, please know you are not alone. You can start with small changes. Find someone to talk to. Learn small tools. Hold a warm bowl of something you love and taste a small, uncomplicated joy. That tiny taste of pleasure can be a seed of hope. It is a reminder that good feelings are still possible. I am not fixed. I am moving. I am learning. I want to live. I want to be okay.